I'd like to call the special meeting of the Tuscarawas Valley Local Board of Education to order. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Greer?
Present.
Mr. Gooding?
Yes, present.
Mrs. Green?
Present.
Mr. Knack?
Present.
Mrs. Castor?
Present. Item 2, approve a resolution authorizing approval of OFCC MOU and approving related matters. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. Mark, Phillips, are you going to
Yeah.
explain?
Yes. So
Thank you.
where we're at with this is again, because of the whole COVID-19 situation and the state freezing funding right now, I guess you would say, or entering into contracts or anything in terms of our project, the OFCC is, again, put us on pause or hold right now. So we're kind of stuck in this quandary where it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is the state going to approve our project agreement before we obtain funding, i.e. sell the COPS, or do we have to sell the COPS first in order for the state to approve our project agreement? And part of the problem that comes into play is if we sell tax-exempt securities, we have to spend down the principal of that issue within 5 years, according to the IRS, or else we lose the tax-exempt status on those securities. So it's this, we don't want to sell COPS before we have a project agreement, knowing that the state's going to give us our money and we can move forward with the project because we can't certify that we're going to meet the timeline that the IRS has established. So this resolution is authorizing that Susan and I can sign an MOU after the commission approves the project agreement and issues the MOU. We're going to proceed with selling the COPS if the market allows ahead of the project agreement being signed by the commission, knowing that this MOU will take place. I know that's all kind of confusing and intertwined. It took me a while to get there. If you need me to run through it again, I will.
Well, my question is, it sounds like we want to continue on the design end of it, and that would have come out of our share of the 61% or whatever is what I think I read there. I just want to be sure that if we approve something and we're going to go ahead and expend the money, if the state backs out, we're kind of out the you know what.
Initially, yes, it's going to be like we're funding the project 100%. And I guess that's the risk that you would potentially take unless we put the whole thing on hold. In a worst case scenario, what could happen is we put it on hold and the state says you no longer qualify for CFAP. Then the only option that we would have to proceed would be to enter in ELP, the Expedited Local Partnership Program, where the district would pay 100% of whatever they can afford up front to do the first part of the project. And then when the state says it's time for us to fund you, your numbers come up, then the state gives you the funding to complete the second part of the project. When I was at Strasburg, that's how we completed the building at Strasburg. The first half of the building was done under ELP, funded 100% by the school district. Then when the state said your number's up, we're going to give you the money, they used 100% of that state funding, which was the match, to build the second portion of the building, to finish it.
Mark, is the main issue here the design phase? Is that what we want to do to complete so we're ready to roll once the state says it's okay?
Right, we need to continue working with the architect and construction manager to hone in and finalize on some of the plans and the designs so that the project's ready to go out to bid. If we stay in pause mode and we do not continue down that road, it just pushes the whole timeline back.
So the way I see it, we did not spend all of our allocation that we have to spend on design. There's only going to be a certain amount of dollars that we would expect before we know if everything's going ahead. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
That is correct, and I mean, I don't want to throw out exact dollars. I could guess based on what we're doing at Fairless and knowing the amounts and the fact that the projects are similar in size. You know, it's going to be over $1 million, but probably under $2 million. Don't hold me to that. I don't have the exact numbers, but I'm just guessing based on where we're at, you know, in the process of Fairless.
Keep in mind, I mean, this is just, and Mark, please correct me if I say anything that's not accurate, but I think when you're looking at the board has continued to approve a lot of resolutions, and normally this would not be one of them in this process, but because of COVID-19 and because, and you may remember, the state actually did, the OFCC approved our plan, but yet it was not executed. It wasn't signed and executed. You approved our plan, the state approved our plan, but the state, it was not a signed and executed agreement. And because it was not a signed and executed agreement yet, and then COVID hit, and then the state pressed pause, basically, I'm really simplifying this. Now what this MOU does basically is authorize us, it authorizes officially Mr. Phillips and Mrs. Kazchek as board president to enter into this MOU to keep the process moving forward so that we can, as much as possible, remain on that original timeline that we've all been looking at and trying to work through. And then we trust that we sign this MOU, maybe we start funding some things in terms of the design phase that we need to, but then OFCC will approve and execute, and then we keep moving. Am I simplifying that too much?
Right, no, it's perfect. The only point of clarification I would make again is this resolution is authorizing Susan and I to sign the MOU at the point in time the MOU is drafted.
Great.
The MOU has not been drafted as of yet.
There you go.
We're passing this resolution so that we don't get between board meetings when the MOU is issued and again have that hold things up in terms of signing a project agreement or issuing COPs. So having this authorization now allows Susan and I to sign it as soon as it's issued, not having to wait until the next board meeting to actually approve the MOU.
Right. Good. Great questions, Mr. Gooding. Any other thoughts or questions from our team?
I'm just curious.
Sorry, Susan. No.
I was just curious if you have any idea if other schools who are in the same position as we are right now are doing anything similar.
I know for a fact I have a copy here of Green Local Schools in Scioto County's MOU. So, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's the actual MOU. You're looking at an actual MOU.
Right. From my conversations with Becky Princehorn, bond counsel, she indicated that they had been working on this ever since the state, you know, the OFCC hit pause on all their projects, and that Friday of last week was when the first of these MOUs were actually issued or released.
And then my question is, from the pipeline money, how much money do we have that we can do this? We have enough to cover what we're gonna do, like the design phase, is that correct?
Yes,
We will not be dipping into the general fund, correct?
correct, will not.
No, that's the whole goal of the entire project, that we're not touching general fund. That's our mission, that's our goal.
Right, I mean, as of today, as we sit right now, we have not received our final tax settlement from Stark County. I'm waiting for that to actually be issued. It should be coming within the next 2 weeks, hopefully before the end of the month. And then we will complete a transfer from the general fund to the permanent improvement fund as we did last year. So the money may still be sitting technically in the general fund right now that we've received from the pipeline from Tuscarawas County, but it will be moved into the permanent improvement fund that you guys have previously approved.
Okay, one other question I have is regarding taxes, which we've already paid, I think, the taxes that come in July. If residential areas do not pay their taxes, for whatever reason, then do we just not get the amount we're supposed to get, or do they decrease by what people haven't paid, or do the government pay us and then they go after the money? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. Right now, I am not aware of a delayed second billing for either Stark County or Tuscarawas County. So there should, I mean, it should not be pushed back. Or I'm not aware of that at this point in time. If individuals are delinquent in paying their tax bills, Tusky Valley does not receive the funding. It sits on the county's books as delinquent. They will proceed after those individuals to eventually collect the money. We don't receive the money until the county collects it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's all my questions.
Thank you. Susan, you're muted.
You can go in and unmute her.
Susan, you're muted.
I don't know how I got muted, but okay. All right, any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Knapp?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Mrs. Burrier?
Yes.
Mr. Gooding?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Castro?
Yes. Item 3, be it resolved that during the emergency declared by Executive Order 2020 OID issued March 9th, 2020, and not beyond December 1st, 2020, the Board of Education shall call and conduct all regular, special, and emergency meetings in accordance with the provisions of the Open Meetings Act and Section 12 of amended House Bill 197, and further in compliance with any future lawful and binding act or order of a local, state, or federal government entity. Do I have a motion?
I make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Just
Call the
simply,
roll.
we're moving, we have the ability to do this through December 2020.
Correct, and I really just wanted to take an extra precaution on behalf of the board with this resolution. We did have a similar resolution at the regular April meeting. And that probably would have covered it, but just as an extra safeguard and full transparency, we wanted to include this resolution. It's a bit simpler than the one in April, but again, it's there.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Gooding?
Yes.
Mrs. Burrier?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Mrs. Castro?
Yes. At this time, I entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, and compensation of public employees or officials. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Gooding?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Burrier?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Mrs. Castro?
Yes. So at this time, okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Knapp?
yes.
Mrs. Burrier?
Yes.
Mr. Gooding?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mrs. Castro?
Yes. Well, that was a nice short meeting.